Well, I guess I lied to you yesterday. I said I was going to do two parts on one of my favorite battle scenes, the Exodus of the sons of Israel. And in fact, it's going to have to be three parts because I want to keep these within the time limit that I've set for my devotions. Chapter 14, verses 1 through 12. Let me set the stage for you again because I think it's so important you see this in context. The sons of Israel have left with the silver and gold and clothes that they accumulated and asked for from the nation of Egypt, from the people there. They've gone out into the wilderness, not in a path that you'd expect, but the path that God has designed for them. And then they backtrack a little bit so that the Egyptians can see them and report back to the Pharaoh, who's also the king, obviously, and to let them know that the slaves are out there and they want their slaves back, even though they were glad to get rid of them at the time. And God says, all of this is my purpose. Behind strange events and things you wouldn't think were going to happen, God has a purpose. And behind this purpose, he says, so that they will know that I am the Lord. That's for both the nation of Israel and also for the Egyptians. So the Egyptians decide to come after their slaves. They mount up a formidable force, 600 chariots, all of the horses of Egypt, all of the armed forces, if you will. And they start to charge after the sons of Israel. And the sons of Israel call out to God. And they complain to Moses, weren't there enough graves in Egypt for us? So let's take a look at this Exodus map and see exactly where we are. So here you can see the map of the Exodus, and you'll notice that there is the turning back to Pi-hahiroth, which is a city that is between the Red Sea and Egypt. And they're not yet crossed over the Red Sea. So this second map will probably help you a little bit more to understand where we are geographically as we blow up that area. Again, here you can see Migdal, and then you see Pi-hahiroth, and you see where they camped and how they turned back. And it looks like a very narrow waterway here, but if you really know geography, then you'll find out that at that particular point it was no less than 12 miles across. And the sea of Red Sea at that point is about 230 feet deep. So quite a miracle when you think about it. Those who tried to explain it away by saying they crossed over the Sea of Reeds where it was very shallow, then they have a hard time explaining how the Egyptian army was drowned in a little bit of water that the Israelites could walk across. But in any case, here, this map helps you a little bit more. Remember, that's 12 miles across at the very least. Some have said 25 miles, depending on exactly where they crossed. So remember where we are now. The Egyptians are after the Israelites, and they're still on the Egyptian side of the Red Sea. And there's an army as far as the eye can see behind them, and there's the sea, which is 230 feet deep and at least 12 miles across. And that's a little too far to swim. So what does Moses do? Well, I think this is a perfect time for a flashback to Exodus chapter 3, verses 11, where he says, who am I that I should go to the Pharaoh? Or chapter 4, where he says, they'll not believe me. Or chapter 4, verse 10, where he says, I'm slow of speech. I can't handle this job. What happened to this Moses, this inadequate, fearful, slow of speech leader that God had chosen? Well, I think that if you sit and meditate for a while, you might come up with a conclusion that I did. Or if you go back and read all of the chapters from chapter 1 back through to chapter 14, and you try to find a turning point when Moses would have gotten the confidence that he has, obviously, when we look at the next part of the text. And that is, I believe the answer is found in chapter 6. But let's look at the text of how Moses responded to the nation of Israel crying out to God and complaining to him, an Egyptian army behind them and a Red Sea before them. But Moses said to the people, "Do not fear. Stand by. See the salvation of the Lord, which he will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians whom you have seen today, you will never see them again forever. The Lord will fight for you while you keep silent." Well, there you have it. The Moses that was inadequate, the Moses that was worried about them not hearing him and believing him, and the Moses who just said he was slow of speech. He wasn't slow of speech here, was he? Stand still. Watch the salvation of the Lord. What changed him? Go back and read chapter 6. You'll understand if you look at chapter 6 in verses 2, 6, 7, and 8. The Lord was talking to Moses, and he said, "Moses, I am the Lord." You know, I think that chapter 6 was a turning point in Moses' life, and he finally understood that he is Lord. And that's when our lives really change the best. Not just the day of salvation, but the day we come to that conclusion that he is Lord, and he's Lord of all. That's my thought for the day. God bless you and have a great day.